Good afternoon, dear teachers. Welcome to Sanchalana. So today we will be talking about elements of speaking English in classroom, that is 4.0. In our previous module, that is in our previous month, uh, we had focused more on simple questions out of three language tools that we are all familiar with, that is vocabulary set, simple questions, and simple sentences. So let me ask one question to all of us, that is, what are some things that we need to know to build our own questions? So what is that one some things that we need to know to build our own questions? I would request all the teacher mentors to let us know your answer through the chat section. Thank you, dear teachers. Yes, with everything that you have already mentioned, let us see what are some of the things that we need to know to build our own questions. So there are three steps while building a question. So first step is the basic question starters. So these are the question starters that we would need to build our questions. As a second step, we need question starters for vocabulary categories. We are all familiar with vocabulary categories. So what are the question starters that we can use for each of the categories? Something that we will be looking in this step. As step 3, we will be building questions for specific answers. So when we follow all of these three steps, we can finally build our own questions. As step 1, as we mentioned, it is basic question starters. There are 7 types of question starters which we called as WH words. So those are who, what, when, where, why, how, and which. As we all know, when we want to ask any question related to any person, we would be starting our question with who. When we want to know more about a thing or action, more information is required, then we would start our question with what. When our answer is something related to time, then we would start our question with when. We use the question starter where when we need to ask about a place and information about place. If you want to know some reason, then we would start our question with why. To know any condition, quality, or process, we would start our question with how. And to ask any specific information, we would start our question with which. Now let's see an example how this 7 question starters work. So here is a picture of fox. So when we need to know more information about fox, then we might start our question with what? Because the question starter what gives us an information about a particular topic that we are speaking. So the question can be like, what is a fox? When we want to know information about a place, then a place where the fox live, then we would ask a question like, where does a fox live? To know the time at which a fox sleep, then we would start a question with, when does a fox sleep? When we need to know the reason of why a fox has a long ear, then we would ask a question like, why does the fox have long ears? Then when we want to know which animal does the fox hunt, and it's a specific information that we are looking at, so we would start our question with which. When we want to know any animal or human beings that the fox is afraid of, then we would start a question with who, because who represents people or any animals. When we want to know more about a process in which the fox hunt or fox find its own food, then we would start our question with how does a fox find food? As a step 2, we have question starters for vocabulary categories. We are all familiar with the vocabulary category by now. There would be a topic, and for every topic that we would be dealing, there would be 3 categories. First one being the definition, second one being the features, and third one being the examples. So each of this category to get an answer related to each of this category, I can say that we would be using certain question starters. Now let us see what are the question starters that we would be using to frame a question based on each of this category. For any given topic, under the category of definition, we can frame a question using what, how, who, where, and why. When it comes to feature, we can start our question with what, which, where, and why. When it comes to example category, we can start our question with what, where, when, and who. For example, let's take a topic like preposition. The definition of preposition is prepositions tell us where something is or when something is happening. So some of the question starters that we can use for the definition category is what, how, who, where, and why. Using these question starters, we can frame questions like, what is a preposition? How do we know where something is? So for a features category for the topic preposition, features of prepositions are like short words, comes before nouns, indicates location, relationship, and time. Some of the question starters that we can use for the category of feature are what, which, where, and why. Using these question starters, we can frame questions like which word indicates location? Where do we use words that indicate relationship or indicate time? Same way for the category examples for the topic preposition, we all know example consists of a very huge list of all possible examples, right? So some of the examples for prepositions are like on, up, down, between, along, etc. And to get an answer for these kind of examples, we might use the question starters like what, where, and when. Some of the examples for the example category could be like, when do we use the preposition on? What does the word on tells us? And we can also combine different categories like definition and feature, or features and examples, or definition and example categories to frame our questions and make it little more complex. Like, which preposition do you use to indicate time? What do we call short words that tell us where something is or when something is happening? Why is the word between called a preposition? As you can see in the first question, the word preposition belongs to the definition category, and indicate time, the phrase indicate time, belongs to the category of features. In the last question, as we all can see, the word between belongs to the example category and the word preposition belongs to the definition category. Here we are making a combination of definition and example, as well as in the previous question, we have made the combination as features and definition and features. As a step 3, we have building questions for specific answers. So whenever we want to ask a question which would make us arrive at a particular answer, we are looking for a specific answer and we need to build a question for that. So in those times, there would be two categories of questions that we can ask, like open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. Both of these would give us a specific set of answers. Like, for example, when we say open-ended questions are those questions that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no response. And this gives our students an opportunity to explain an answer or to give us answers in lengthy sentences or in paragraphs in a very free form manner. And also this gives us an opportunity as teachers to get to know whether our learners have understood the topic completely, they have gained a complete knowledge, and they are able to express themselves using this particular topic. And some of the question starters that we can use to frame open-ended questions would be like what, why, and how. Any question that starts with what would give us a lot of information regarding the topic that we are asking a question about. Like, what is a market? It gives us a complete explanation about what a market is. And why questions would lead us to reasons related to a particular topic, saying that why do we need to use market? Or we can also start a question with how, when we are asking about the condition, quality, or process. So how do you go to market? So which market do you go? How do you use a market? How is it helpful for others? So all of these questions will lead us to, a condition, quality, or process related answers. When it comes to closed-ended questions, these are the questions that could be answered with a one-word answer or a simple yes or no answer. And most of these questions would lead us to a very short and direct answers. And most of these answers would be in single or group of words, or in simple sentences, or in phrases. And these answers would be very specific, and it would be specific aspect of a subject that we are talking. Any topic given, we would be asking a very particular attribute of that particular topic that we are speaking here. Maybe the question starters that we can use for framing these kind of questions in most of the scenarios is with which, where, and when. So any question that starts with which gives us a specific information, like which market do you go often? So that gives us a name of a market. Like you can ask where is that market? That gives us the location of the market. When do you go to market? It gives us a time in which, maybe like a fortnight once, or maybe I go at 7 o'clock in the evening, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. It gives us a specific time as an answer. So when we have these kind of answers already, like we want this particular kind of information, then we can start our question based on the kind of information that we want as a response. So this was our previous module, and the recording of this module is available on our Caring with Color YouTube channel with the name Elements of Speaking English in a Classroom 3.0. So this is the name of the recording that is available on YouTube. And coming back to this module, in this module, we would be dealing with milestone 7 and 8. For milestone 7, we would be dealing with parts of the body. For milestone 8, we would be dealing with extended family terms for grade 4 and 5. For grade 6, we would be dealing with the learning outcome 6.7, and the topic under that particular learning outcome that we have chosen for this module is punctuation. And for grade 7, it would be 7.6, learning outcome 7.6, where we would be dealing with announcements and instructions made in class, school, assembly, and railway station, and in any other public places. In this module, we will be listening and practicing 3 steps of sentence building, where we would be dealing with 2 blocks of sentence building and using vocabulary in our basic sentences, and adding more how to add more information to the basic sentence. This is what we will be learning through this module. Dear mentors, I want you all to look for these 2 icons that is visible on screen right now throughout the presentation, because the first icon means that whenever this icon is visible on any of the screen, that means that particular activity, when it is dealt on the day of Sanchalana, that is on Saturday, In this activity, the participants in your center will be directly talking to you. And if you find the second icon, then probably it's a pair work activity where the teachers would involve in a pair activity, and this is how that would be conducted. We will learn more about what are the activities. And there are certain color codes that we want all our teacher mentors to follow. The first one is the blue slide. Any slide that is visible with a blue color means that that particular slide is an activity that needs to be facilitated by teacher mentors on Saturday. If there's a purple color slide, that means there are some of the tips that the teacher mentors can follow to conduct that particular activity in their respective Sanchalana centers. And then we have certain slides which are in white color. Those are the slides that contains learning concepts. And this is a small screenshot of the mentor script. So after the session today, mentor script would be sent out to you in your WhatsApp groups. And wherever there's an activity in this, this would be an activity list of activities that you need to conduct in your Sanchalana centers on the day of webinar. So in the script, you can find out that there would be a screenshot. ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ಶಾಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಆ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಅವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ ಪ್ರೊಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆದಾಗ ಏನನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಈ ತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಟಿಪ್ಪಣಿ ಕೂಡ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಟೀಚರ್ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಈ ಒಂದು ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ಮುಗಿದ ನಂತರ ನಮ್ಮ ಟೀಮ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಇದನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ ಜೊತೆ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
Thank you, Kriti. So dear mentors, let's begin with this module. I just want to repeat that whenever you see a white slide, please remember that it is a learning concept that will be taught during the Sanchalana training program. And when we see a blue slide, it is an activity that is led by the teacher mentor. In this module, that is today, we are going to learn some tips about how we can conduct the activity, and also have small practice with the activity based on the tips. And this is an interactive session, so I would request all of you, whenever there is a question or whenever we ask you to participate, please do respond and chat with us, because this also enables us to understand how well you have understood what has been taught about, and also we will be encouraged as you respond. So let us begin. So now we have looked at 3 language tools. In the previous sessions, we have focused on the vocabulary set. We have gone deep into simple questions, just like Kriti has recapped for you so far. And now we are going to dwell a little deep into simple sentences. Our goal is to help teachers construct simple questions and simple sentences in the classroom using very simple tools. So let's see how we can teach them that. Before we move on into the module, I have a small question for all of you. Let's speak about the topic announcements in a school assembly. Now, if you have to talk about announcements in a school assembly in the classroom, what are the kind of sentences you would come up with? So what are the kind of sentences you would speak in a classroom if you were given the topic announcements in a school assembly? So please send us your answers via chat. We would want to hear from you. Yes, I will repeat the question once again. what are some of the sentences we would speak? I want full sentences. So what are the some of the sentences we would speak when it comes to announcements during a school assembly? So I have one sentence here. Dear children, here is an announcement. Excellent, ma'am. I want you to think about sentences we would speak in a classroom. Let us say we are teaching students about announcements made in a school assembly. What are some of the sentences we would speak in the classroom? We inculcate the discipline among the students. Okay. For your kind notice, dear children. Excellent. May I have your attention, please? Hello, good morning. Please listen. Stand in the line. All of you take one arm distance. Dear students, listen to the leader. Okay. Excellent. All of you open the book. All of you turn to page number. Okay. Excellent responses. I'm going to read one last response before moving forward. Tomorrow is conducting parent-teacher meeting. Excellent. So I received a range of responses from you based on one topic. There were some of you who spoke about announcements. So the statements were or sentences were about announcements in the school assembly. Some of you gave me instructions regarding announcements during a school assembly. So as we can see, when it comes to speaking sentences, a teacher not only needs to know what she needs to talk about a topic, but a teacher would also need to know how to speak sentences when it comes to giving instruction, right? So this module is created to help teachers use simple tips to create a simple sentence and how they can develop the sentence using simple blocks to help them give specific information about different topics and specific instructions regarding what they are teaching. So let's move forward. So what are some things we need to learn to build our own sentences? So let's look at some steps of sentence building. We have seen some steps of question building, but now let's look at some steps of sentence building. First, we need to understand the basic blocks of building a sentence. That is the 2 blocks to build a basic sentence. We need to learn how to add vocabulary to basic sentences. That is, we need to learn or understand how to make our sentences richer and nicer and better with vocabulary. Third is, we need to add information to basic sentences. How do we extend our sentences? How do we add important information to our sentences? So these are 1, 2, and 3 steps that we would need to get familiar or learn to construct sentences. Okay. Let's learn 1, 2, and 3, that is steps 1, 2, and 3, using topics from the Kalika Kshetra. Now, milestone 7, we will use the topic parts of the body. Milestone 8, we will use the topic extended family members. Learning outcome 6.7, we will use the topic punctuation. And learning outcome 7.6, we will use the topic response to instructions regarding announcements made in public places. Step 1, the 2 blocks to build a basic sentence. Whenever we construct a sentence, we can say we use 2 specific blocks. In block 1, we talk about what or who. And in block 2, we talk about an action or a description. Let's take a look at what that means. So block 1, what or who. This means we are either talking about an object or we are either talking about a person. In block 2, once we have picked who we are talking about or what we are talking about, we will either describe a quality or we will either describe an action regarding the object or the person. So let's through some examples, let's see what that means. So here we have our 2 blocks. Now we have a boy running. So in block 1, I want to talk about the boy. In block 2, I want to talk about the action that the boy is doing. That is, he is running. So my sentence will be, once I combine the 2 blocks, the boy is running. Again, in block 1, if you see in the bottom left corner of your screen, we have a bus. So I want to talk about the bus. What is a quality or a description I want to give about the bus? It is that it's big. So if I combine both the blocks, my sentence becomes the bus is big. Now these are simple sentences. Let's look at some sentence examples from the Kalika Chetrike. Now let's look at sentences specifically with when we are addressing a person and describing an action or a description about them in block 2. So here we have a picture of the king from the story, The Fat King. So now this is a point where the king has become thin and tall. So I want to address in block 1, I want to talk about the king. And in block 2, I want to describe a quality about the king, which is he is tall. So the king is tall. In block 1, I want to talk about the queen. In block 2, I want to address the action that the queen is doing or the queen did, is that she sat down and ate. So in block 2, my description will, my action will be sat down to eat. So my sentence will be the queen sat down to eat. Now let's say I am teaching parts of the body to my class. And I want to use the example of one of my students whose name is Anamika. And I want to describe the different features on her face for my class. So I want to tell my class that she has a sharp nose and she has brown eyes. So in block 1, I will say Anamika has brown eyes and a sharp nose. Now, what about when it comes to a topic like punctuations? Can we use the 2 blocks? Let's see how we can do that. My first punctuation is an apostrophe. What is an action I want to talk about? What is an action that I want to mention an apostrophe does? An apostrophe shows us possession. So my sentence is an apostrophe shows us possession. Here, a full stop. What is an action that a full stop does? It ends a sentence. A full stop ends a sentence. A comma. What is a quality about a comma that I want to describe? It separates sentences or items in a list. So a comma separates items in a list. Capital letters. What is a quality about capital letters? It is used at the beginning of sentences and it is also used at the beginning of some nouns, the beginning of nouns. So capital letters are letters used at the beginning of a sentence and for a proper noun. So this is how we can construct sentences based on different topics while we use the 2 blocks. That is what and who in block 1 and in block 2 addressing the action or the quality. Now let's look at some sentences when it comes to announcements. What do I want to talk about? Announcements about school. A quality or description about announcements about school is that they are made in an assembly. So announcements about schools are made in an assembly. What do I want to talk about? Arrival and departure. What is a quality about arrival and departure? There are 2 kinds of announcements made in a railway station. So arrival and departure are 2 kinds of announcements made in a railway station. Who do I want to talk about? I want to talk about the bus conductor. What is an action that the bus conductor does? He makes announcements about a bus. Therefore, my combined sentence will be, The bus conductor makes announcements about a bus. Who do I want to talk about? Shopping mall attendants. What do shopping mall attendants do, or what is the action I'm describing? They make announcements about discounts. So, shopping mall attendants make announcements about discounts. Now, dear teacher mentors, we come to the first activity that will be displayed. Kindly note when you see a screenshot of this activity in your teacher mentor script, follow the tips given under the screenshot to conduct this activity. The goal of this activity or every activity in light blue is to help the teachers in your teacher mentor group talk or speak. So the goal of this module is to help teachers speak using the 2-sentence blocks and additionally the next steps that we provide. Now please note to the top left corner of your screen, you see an icon here. It's one person with a bubble. When you see this particular icon, you should know it is a single person response activity. So let's look at some of the tips that we could follow or that you could follow as mentors to help the teachers in your teacher mentor group speak during this activity. So as I said, the icon means this is a single person response activity. First, repeat the instruction given by the presenter. Second, repeat the example given by the presenter. Third, read out the examples given in the teacher mentor script. Mentors, kindly note that the mentor script will be circulated to you after this training session. Please do take a look at it, read it, and you can use it to prepare yourself for how the activities will be conducted. Now let's practice these steps in this right now. So when I present the next slide to you, it is the same activity slide. I want you to follow steps 1 and 2. That is, you need to repeat the instruction given by the presenter, that is me, and you need to repeat the example given by the presenter. After I repeat the instruction, I will pause and I will wait for a little while for you to repeat. And after I repeat the example, I will pause once again and wait for you to repeat the example. Let's practice. Dear teachers, now let's practice speaking basic sentences using what we have learned. Look at your screen and come up with sentences using the sentence blocks. You can use the pictures on your left to help you form your own sentences. Here is an example of a sentence you can come up with. The fat king is running.
Dear teachers, ಈ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂಚಲನ ಕೇಂದ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಈ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯ ಸುಗಮಗಾರಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ವಹಿಸ್ಕೋತೀರಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ನಮಗೆ ಚಾಟ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಕಾಲಾವಕಾಶ 2 ನಿಮಿಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ. ಈ 2 ನಿಮಿಷಗಳ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ನೀವು ಈ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಏನನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ನಿರ್ವಹಿಸ್ತೀರಿ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯನ್ನ ಅಂತದನ್ನ ನಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಸಂಚಲನ ಕೇಂದ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ನಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟೀಚರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು ಇರ್ತಾರೋ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅವರದೇ ಆದಂತ ಒಂದು ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಫ್ರೇಮ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರು ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ನಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ಫ್ಲಾಶ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. We'll ask teachers to complete the sentences. Yes. Help to frame questions or actions by using simple questions like what is he doing? By using pictures, creating situations. Yes. First, we need the reader. Okay. Okay, making the teachers to complete the sentence by creating situation. Yes. Interaction is very important. Yes, sir. Definitely. Interaction is very much important when it comes to a speaking module. Look at the picture and describe about that. Create an environment to think and talk about it. Yes. Thank you so much for such a lovely and wonderful responses.
Thank you, teachers. Yes, we will use all of the things that you have mentioned to help the teachers talk. So please do remember, as we are giving you tips in this mentor training session, these are basic tips that you can follow or you must follow. And everything else that you add on to your session to help the teachers talk will only help your the teachers in your center speak and grow. So please do feel free to use your own examples, feel free to use your own methodologies as well to help the teachers speak, while also following instructions that we have trained you with here, and also, as a reference, keeping the teacher mentor script with you. Now let's move on to the third step. It is, after you have repeated the example and after you have repeated the instruction, you can also read out examples given in the teacher mentor script as a dialogue for the teachers to help them give their own sentences. So sometimes we need to also give examples to the teachers about what needs to be done during an activity, in order for the teachers also to understand what needs to be done and respond. So here is a small snippet from the teacher mentor script given to you that you can use for this particular activity. You can say, let us create some sentences using the structure we have learned. Now, this particular instruction, if you want, in your teacher mentor, in your group, you can repeat in Kannada if necessary. Then move on to give them some examples. A full stop is used to finish a sentence. Announcements about a train are made before a train arrives. You can also add examples of your own to help the teachers understand better and respond to you. Now let's move on. So we have seen a lot of sentence construction when it comes to basic sentences regarding topics. But as we also know, there are lots of learning outcomes that have instruction as the basis or as a skill, where it says students respond to instructions given by the teachers. And as well as we are given a teacher handbook where there are a lot of instructions given to us to give in the classrooms. So can we use the sentence blocks to help us create instruction-based sentences? Let's see. So in an instruction, you are usually talking about a person. Very rarely you will talk about an object, but most of the instructions that we have been given in the teacher handbook is related to who we are addressing. That is, it could be the student, or we could be talking about ourselves as the teacher, and what is the action that we require of the student, or what is the action that we as a teacher are doing that the student needs to pay attention to. So let's look at some examples of that. So when we are giving an instruction in the first block, we will address who. So who are we talking to? We are talking to the students. What is the action that we want the students to do? We want the students to observe pictures. So the sentence will be, or the sentence we speak in class will be, students observe the pictures. Let's look at other examples. Who are we talking to? Students. What is the action that we require the students to do? We want them to rearrange the pictures. So our sentence will be, students rearrange the pictures. Now, supposing we are talking about ourselves, we will say, I am, and what is the action that we are doing that we want the students to pay attention to? We want to say that we are going to read some announcements made in a railway station. So we will say, I am going to read some announcements made in a railway station. So here are examples of how we can construct sentences, instruction-based sentences using the two blocks. Now, kindly note, mentors, that this is the second activity that will be displayed during the Sanchalana session. Now, when this activity happens, if you notice in the top right corner of your screen, you will see this icon. So you will see two people with two speech bubbles. Any idea what this could mean from an activity point of view? Any guesses? You can please respond via chat. Paired activity. Excellent, Shiva sir. Paired work. Excellent. So I think we have included a lot of explanations, but you all are probably way smarter than us. So you already know conversation, pair work. Yes, exactly. That is the aim of this activity. In the previous activity, the teachers had to respond to you as a mentor. In this activity, we want them to practice talking to themselves. So when this activity is displayed and you see that it is a paired work activity, what are some of the steps that you would need to follow? These are basic steps that you would need to follow as a mentor. One, once again, here you will repeat the instruction given by the presenter. Again, the second step, you will repeat the example given by the presenter. Third, here you will divide the teachers into pairs. Now you can use two methods to divide, not two, you can use any method to divide the teachers into pairs. We recommend counting them off in 1 and 2, and then pairing the ones with the twos so that it is quick. However, if you know a faster way to help teachers form pairs, you can go ahead and do that. But please do keep in mind the time factor. And also do keep in mind that we want the teachers to get as much speaking practice as possible within the limited time they have for the activity. So once you divide the teachers into pairs, you can then read out the examples given in the teacher mentor script. After you do that, you would walk around the room and you would help the pairs who are struggling. So here, if a pair is struggling, you can repeat examples for any pair, or you can also repeat the instructions as required. So here again, let's practice this activity. When I display the activity slide, that is the same activity slide now, I would want you to repeat the instruction I make as a presenter and then repeat the example given by Kriti. Dear teachers, let's practice speaking instruction-based sentences using the two sentence blocks. Look at your screen and come up with instructions you would use in the classroom. Now, I am going to ask my friend Kriti to give me an example of one sentence, one instruction-based sentence using the two blocks, who and action.
For the block who, I would choose students, and for the block action, I would instruct as open your book. So my sentence would be, students, open your book.
Great. Thank you, Kriti. Now, teachers, I have a question here for you once again. What are some of the things that you would do to ensure the paired activity goes on smoothly in your teacher group? So please do feel free during this time to share some things that you would do in your mentor group to ensure your paired activities go well, or to help teachers talk to each other. Would you like to share anything? Any tip or any particular step that you would take to help to ensure this activity goes smoothly? Please do respond to us via chat.
Dear teacher mentors, ಇದೊಂದು ಸಂಚಲನ ಕೇಂದ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯನ್ನ ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಸಂಚಲನ ಕೇಂದ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಎಸ್ ಸುನಿಲ್ ಸರ್, ಮಾನಿಟರ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಎಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪೇರ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅವರ ಮಧ್ಯ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಅವರಿಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಸಹಾಯ ಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಇಫ್ ನೀಡೆಡ್. ಎಸ್. ವೆನ್ ದೇ ಅಸೆಂಬಲ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ರೂಮ್ ವಿ ಮೇಕ್ ಪೇರ್. ಎಸ್. ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಸಮ್ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಟು ಹೂ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅಲೌ them to match. Very good. Concentric circles activities are the best method. Okay.
That's a nice idea, Lokesh sir. But please do also ensure that they try to talk in pairs. But if you feel that putting them in concentric circles helps them talk to each other, you can try that method. Also, please do try to give us feedback about how that has gone on in your center, so that we could probably suggest that also.
Make them to sit in pairs and give hints or instruction to complete that activity. Yes, Netravati ma'am. Any other ideas to conduct this activity? Make a group activity. Yes. But when we do a group activity, we would request you to take a look that everybody is participating, because it's a spoken activity, it's a speaking activity, so where every individual's participation is must and should.
Thank you, dear teacher. So we received a lot of tips. I would also request at this point, please do take videos of whatever's happening in your center, and please do send them across to the spokesperson, so that we would also receive them and understand how you are conducting the activities and the special ways or the instructions or the tips you are using to help your teacher group speak. So yes, thank you so much for all your inputs. After repeating the instruction and repeating the example, you will divide the teachers into pairs, and then you will read out an example given from the teacher mentor script. You can use this as a backup if you are not able to give examples of your own. So here is a small snippet from the teacher mentor script. One is you can tell them to assume your partner is in the classroom. Create 1 or 2 instruction sentences using the framework and say to them, which means you can tell the teachers to think that their partner is a student in the classroom. How would they construct an instruction based sentence and tell the student using the 2 blocks? Next, like all of you have said, you will monitor the class, you will walk around and help pairs who are struggling. You can repeat examples for any pairs who are needed, and you can also repeat the instruction when necessary. Now let's look at step 2, adding vocabulary to basic sentences. We have already learned about the basic vocabulary set. That is for any topic. We have 3 categories. We have a definition, we have features, we have examples. And the words that come under each, the words or the phrases or the sentence that go under each of these categories for any topic creates the vocabulary set for that topic. Now, how do we use a vocabulary set to help us talk better sentences or to enrich our sentences with vocabulary? Let's take the example of punctuation marks. Here in punctuation marks, once again, let's look at the 3 categories: definition, features, examples. Under definition, we have the statement, punctuation marks are the marks used in writing to separate sentences and parts of a sentence. What are some of the features of punctuation marks? They are used at the end of a sentence, used at the beginning of a sentence, used to separate parts of a sentence, used to show the intention of a sentence. What are some examples of punctuation marks? Questions, comma, apostrophe, capital letters, exclamation marks, full stops. So now this is the third activity we will be giving the teachers. That is, we are going to ask them to construct sentences based on punctuation marks. As you can see, some sentences we have already filled the first block and some sentences we have filled in the second block. So they can complete the sentences. This also helps them to understand the concept of building a sentence using 2 blocks, and they can also come up with new sentences. Once again, if you look to the top right corner, this is a single person response activity, which means the teachers will be responding to you directly. What are some of the steps you can follow? As we have mentioned, one is you repeat the instruction given by the presenter. 2 is you repeat the example given by the presenter. And 3, you read out the examples given in the teacher-mentor script. So let's practice this activity. Do follow steps 1 and 2 while I present the activity slide to you, and repeat the instruction given by me and repeat the example given. Dear teachers, let's try and construct sentences based on punctuation marks. Let us use the 2 blocks, what and who, and action and description to come up with sentences based on punctuation marks. Let me try and give an example of a sentence based on punctuation. A full stop helps us understand when a sentence ends. So here, a full stop belongs to the first block, and the action that a full stop does is it helps us understand when a sentence ends. Now, once you have repeated the instruction and once you have repeated the example, you will follow step number 3. That is, you will read out examples given in the teacher-mentor script. So here is another snippet given, taken from the teacher-mentor script for this activity. Let us create some sentences using the structure we have learned for punctuations. You can repeat this instruction in Kannada if necessary. Here is an example you can give the teachers. A question mark can be used to indicate a question. Now let's move forward. Here we have seen that we automatically tend to use vocabulary when it comes to sentences. That is, without us really trying, we automatically borrow some parts of the definition. We automatically borrow features and examples to talk about or to construct sentences based on a topic. Let's see how that works out for punctuation marks, and let's see what we can learn from it. Here we see many sentences about a punctuation mark. A question mark is a mark used in writing. A comma separates parts of a sentence. A full stop is a punctuation mark used to separate sentences. An exclamation mark shows the intention of a sentence. Now here what we see is that when we are addressing block 1, that is what we are talking about in block 1, we are most often using words from either the example category or the definition category. Look at all the words under block 1, a question mark, a comma, a full stop, an exclamation mark. All of them come from the category examples. Now let's see what happens in block 2. So let's take sentence number 1. For example, a question mark is used in writing. Now, this is a part of the definition we have borrowed here. That is, we have used part of the definition to talk about the quality related to a question mark. So we most often see that when we are talking about an action, we are most often used phrases that come from the features category. When we talk about a description or a quality, we most often use phrases that come from the definition category. So let's take a look at that. a comma separates part of a sentence. Here, the block 2 separates part of a sentence is taken from the features category. It is an action that is taken from the features category. Now, this also means that when we want to come up with sentences, we can use the vocabulary set we have created for the topic to create meaningful and vocabulary rich sentences in our classroom. Supposing we want to talk about a full stop. Here, once again, I will borrow a part of the definition, or I will use a part of the definition in block 2 to talk about a full stop. So a full stop, here I'm borrowing a part of the definition, is a punctuation mark used to separate sentences. So my sentence will be, a full stop is a punctuation mark used to separate sentences. Now, what about if I want to talk about an action related to the topic? So here in the first block, I want to talk about an exclamation mark. Now here I can use one of the features that suits an exclamation mark to fill in my second block as the action related to an exclamation mark. For example, an exclamation mark shows the intention of a sentence. Here, shows the intention of a sentence is a feature of punctuation marks borrowed from the features category. So as you can see, creating a vocabulary category can help us in constructing our sentences and making it very meaningful and very informative. Now let's move on to step 3, adding information to basic sentences. Let's learn how we can add information to basic sentences. So in step 1 and 2, or in step 1 especially, we learned the 2 blocks, that is what or who, and action or description. So we know that if we talk about what or who, and then we talk about an action or description, we have a basic sentence. Now, what if we want to add information to the basic sentence? We use a third block, that is reason / process / time / place. What does this mean? So when we talk about reason, process, time, or place, we are talking about why, how, when, or where an action is being done, or why an object received the quality they received. Let's see how this works when we practice it with sentences. Now, when it comes to an action, we can use all 3 topics here to add information. When it comes to an action, we can talk about, we can add information about the reason the action took place. We can add information about the process of the action. We can add information regarding the time of the action, and we can add information regarding the place of the action. So let's use an example here. The queen picked at her food. If we want to add information about the reason she picked at her food, we can say because she didn't want to eat. So the sentence will be, the queen picked at her food because she didn't want to eat. Now let's say we want to add information about the way she picked at her food, or the process she used to pick at her food. She picked at her food very slowly. So the sentence will be, the queen picked at her food, and in the third block, we will add the information very slowly. Suppose we want to talk about the time related to this action. We will say, after she saw the king had become thin. So our sentence will be, the queen picked at her food after she saw the king had become thin. And if we want to talk about a place, we can say on the table in the dining room. So now our sentence will be, the queen picked at her food on the table in the dining room. So these are ways in which when we narrate a story, or when we are telling children some information, we can add, we can use the third block to add the reason, process, time, or place of the action that we are talking to them about. Let's look at another example. Here, who are we talking about? We are talking about we. What is the action that we are talking about? Listen to announcements. Now, if I want to add an information about why we listen to announcements or the reason we listen to announcements, it's because it helps us receive information. So my sentence is, we listen to announcements because it helps us receive information. We listen to announcements when we want information. That is the time. We listen to announcements if I want to add information about place, I will say at public places. So we listen to announcements at public places. So here you can see how we can use the 3 blocks when we are talking about a topic to give lots of information regarding the topic, especially when it comes to an action. Let's see how this works for instructions. When we are telling the instructions to the students, so in the first block, who are we talking to? We're talking to the students. What is the instruction or the action that we want them to do? We want them to listen to the instructions. So students, listen to the instructions. What is the reason? Because you will need to remember what I am saying. So my instruction now is, students, listen to the instructions because you will need to remember what I am saying. If I want to talk the way about, want to give them information about the way they need to listen to the announcement or the process they need to listen to the announcements, I will say carefully. So students, listen to the instructions carefully. If I want to talk about the time or give information about the time they need to listen to the announcements, I will say, students, listen to the instructions when I say start. And finally, when I want to be specific about the place that they need to listen to the announcements, I will say, students, listen to the instructions at the beginning of activity number 22. So here are different ways we can add information to a sentence when it comes to an action. Now let's look at a sentence or sentences that have description. When a sentence has description, we will not give much information about the process, time, or place, but we are most likely to give additional information only regarding reason. So when we give a description-based sentence or when we are talking about a quality, it is most often followed by additional information about reason. For example, what are we talking about? Punctuations. What is the description about punctuations? They help us understand clearly. What is the reason? Because they organize writing. So punctuations help us understand clearly because they organize writing. What are we talking about? Clever students. What is the description about clever students? They are attentive. The reason they are attentive, because they like to learn. So clever students are attentive because they like to learn. Who are we talking about? The king. What is a description or a quality about the king? He was sad. The reason he was sad? Because his dog ran away. So the king was sad because his dog ran away. Now here we come to the fourth activity. What are some statements we can make regarding description and reason? So how can we add information about reason to these statements that have descriptions? So first is, what are we talking about? Announcements about a bus. The description that we're talking about is, it is made for travelers. So announcements about a bus are made for travelers. Can we add a reason or information about reason to it? The next statement is, a question mark is a punctuation mark, and we can add information about reason to it. So teacher mentors, once again, please note, if you look at the top right corner, this is a single response activity. Here, once again, you will repeat the instruction given by the presenter, and then you will repeat the example given by the presenter. After you do this, you will read out the examples given in the teacher mentor script. Let us Quickly practice this. Follow steps 1 and 2 while I present the activity in the upcoming slide. That is, repeat the instruction after the presenter, that is me, and repeat the example given by the presenter. Dear teachers, now it's time to practice adding information to our statements. Here are 2 statements given to you. Announcements about a bus are made for travelers. A question mark is a punctuation mark. There are 2 statements that have descriptions. Can we add information about reason and extend the sentences? Let me give you an example. Announcements about a bus are made for travelers so that they will be on time. Once once you repeat the instructions and repeat the example, now you will move on to read out the examples given in the teacher mentor script. So here is a small snippet from the teacher mentor script. You can say, let us create some sentences using the structure we have learned. Repeat this instruction in Kannada if necessary. Then move on to give them an example. For example, announcements about a bus are made for travelers on a digital screen. So here, this is an action-oriented statement. That is, in the first block, we are addressing students, and in the second block, we are talking about we want them to stand up. So students stand up. Here, you can talk about the reason, the process, the time, and the place. So please do notice that this is a paired activity, and you can add any information, either the reason, the process, the time, or the place that you want the students to stand up. So here we need to help teachers add information in the third block and extend the instruction. So when it comes to a paired activity, here are a few steps that you will follow. One is you will repeat the instruction given by the presenter. Second is you will repeat the example given by the presenter. Third, you will divide the teachers into pairs. Fourth, you will read out the examples given in the teacher mentor script. And 5, you will walk around and help pairs who are struggling. Let's practice the activity. Follow steps 1 and 2 when I present the following slide. Teachers, now it's time to add information regarding reason, process, time, and place to the instruction statement, students stand up. Add any information regarding the reason you want this action to take place, regarding the process you want this action to take place, regarding the time you want this action to take place, or regarding the place you want this action to take place. Kriti, I would request you to give us an example.
Student stand up for the prayer. So that gives them the reason why they need to stand up.
Let me also add an example. Students stand up when I say up. Here, I'm adding a time-related information to the action by saying stand up when I say up. So once again, after you have repeated the instruction given by the presenter, and after you have repeated the example that we have also just given, what is the next step you will follow? Divide the teachers into pairs. Read out the examples given in the teacher mentor script. That is, here is a small snippet from you from what is given in your scripts. Assume your partner is in the classroom. Create 1 or 2 instructional sentences using the framework and say it to them. Teacher mentors, you can repeat this instruction or 1 or 2 sentences of the instructions in Kannada if it is necessary, but do largely make sure that your instructions are in English so that the teachers are able to understand what it feels like to be immersed in a English speaking environment. Now move on to give them an example. For example, students stand up because we are going to sing a song. Now, once you have done this, and once they are in their pairs, Walk around the classroom and help pairs who are struggling. Repeat the example for any pairs as needed. Um, so these are how the activities will go, and these are the tips you can use, dear teacher mentors, to conduct these activities in your own centers. I would just, we have reached the end of our training session today. And we would love to take any questions or any queries you have now. But before that, I would just want to, um, explicitly tell you that the session, the Sanchalana session is purely meant for teachers to be able to talk. And, it is important that we all are able to help them do that in the best way possible. So please do ensure that you go through the teacher mentor script. Please do ensure that are able to understand when each slide comes up, how you can go about training, or how you can go about facilitating the particular activity. And now is the time, if you have any questions regarding the module, or anything that you would like to say regarding the module, you could please tell us your responses or raise your hands, and maybe we can take a couple of questions and responses right now. So please do tell us if there are any questions or responses from your end regarding what we have just done.